violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
Yo, what's good, BGZM News 17 family? I'm at the corner of Jesse Jackson and Marcus Garvey, and I got some bad news for you. As you can see, I lost my job. I'm out here living in cardboard boxes outside of boarded up vacant homes. YouTube said I'm done getting money out here in these streets. They even took my funky ass suit. So anything right now would help. So go ahead and hit that Cash App, hit that PayPal, hit that GoFundMe, hell, cop the merch. Or if you want to make the long-term commitment to the Jinquavius Jackson Fund, join the Patreon so that I can continue to put out top-notch content each and every day. Also, check out the Rumble, where there is absolutely no censorship. Link in the description box below.
Hey, yo, ain't that nigga Jinquavius? Yo, I recognize.
No, that's not me no more.
Hey, yo, run your pocket.
Y'all killing me with this shit.
Do the opposite of Antonio Brown and take
What
all your
more do you want from me?
This is Brittney Griner stands before a judge in Russia. The Phoenix Mercury star facing charges of bringing marijuana vape cartridges into the country illegally.
Her trial is finally getting.
So we covered Brittney Griner a while back. Her trial is getting ready to start moving. I've seen a lot of reports. It looks like she has the cool gray 11s on. They let her swag up for court. I've seen reports that say she's 100% going to be found guilty. Like I said, she got caught red-handed. I was debating with some idiots on Instagram in the comments, and they were saying, oh, they planted it on her. I'm like, her luggage was full of these vape cards. Like, she definitely was not using them simply for consumption. It seems to me that she was trying to push them joints. Now, I don't know. But, you know, maybe she vapes a lot, but that's a little excessive to me.
Underway 4 months after being detained. Team 12's Tram I has been following the case.
Chico.
And has more on her trial. Tram?
Yeah, Caribe and Mark went on trial in a Moscow court today to face drug charges that could have her in prison for up to 10 years. A glimpse of Phoenix Mercury star Brittney Griner as she was leaving a Moscow court after her trial began today.
The U.S. Embassy, the American government, cares very deeply about this case and about Ms. Griner's welfare.
U.S. diplomat Elizabeth Rood spoke to reporters after attending the opening session of Griner's trial.
And wearing a Jimi Hendrix shirt to court is not the best idea given his drug use.
I did have the opportunity to speak with Ms. Griner in the courtroom, and she asked me to convey that she is in good spirits and is keeping up the faith.
It's been more than 4 months since Griner was arrested in Moscow. Back on February 17th, the two-time U.S. Olympic basketball gold medalist was traveling to play for a Russian team when she was busted at the airport for carrying vape canisters with cannabis oil into the country. That arrest came less than a week before.
Wow, hold on. So let's go back. All y'all saying it was planted and this and the third. Look, she had complete possession. Let's see if I can get that frame. She had complete possession of the damn luggage the whole time before she went to the airport. Let's run it back.
Into the country. That arrest came less than a
She got packages, and I'm telling you, that whole bag is full of them carts. Yo, Amazon, it got her name on it, guys. I mean, she's dead to rights. Caught red-handed. Caught red-handed.
A week before Russian troops invaded Ukraine. Griner's supporters and U.S. officials say she's being wrongfully detained, fearing that she is being used as a political pawn amid rising tensions between Russia and the U.S.
Wrongful detention is unacceptable, and it endangers the safety of everyone traveling, living, working, and studying abroad.
Griner's lawyers, Alexander Boykov and Maria Blagovolina, said they were unaware of any plans to exchange Griner for a Russian prisoner held in the U.S.
I think U.S. is doing enough.
So they trying to do an exchange, bruh. Are you serious? You think that Brittney Griner, respect to Brittney Griner, but she's a WNBA basketball player. You think that Brittney Griner is going to be worth exchanging for a Russian, maybe spy or prisoner? And you know they're going to want somebody who is, you know, who has a lot of intel on the U.S. There's no way they're going to make that type of deal for Brittney Griner. The U.S. is not going to dig up, you know, somebody's file in Guantanamo Bay, some Russian spy, and bring them over in exchange for Brittney Griner. That's just not going to happen.
In her case,
I don't know. I'm not a U.S. citizen, so I don't know what they should do.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken said
and if that's her lawyer talking about some, I don't know, I hope that's not her lawyer. She finna lose. You know when they say, oh, if your lawyer don't even wear a suit to court, if he just wear a collared shirt, you finna lose? Yeah.
In the U.S.
I think U.S. is doing enough in her case.
I don't know. I'm not a U.S. citizen, so I don't know what they should do.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken said last week there was no higher priority than bringing Brittney Griner home, as well as other Americans who were illegally detained abroad. The next hearing is set.
There he goes. As well as those other Americans who are what they're saying, quote unquote, illegally detained. But obviously she is legally being detained because she did something illegal in their country. So this is not her being illegally detained. This is her being legally detained based off of the fact that she broke a law in another country at the worst time possible. I mean, where's the accountability? She's going to have to be held accountable. Unfortunately, she made a really dumb decision. This is not the U.S. where they just gonna throw out the whatever you got in your bag or throw out your bag. No, you finna get brought up on charges, hun.
For July 7th. Back to you, Mark.
As American basketball star Brittney Griner is led to a Russian court for the first hearing of her trial,
it's really difficult.
Her wife struggles at home.
Because it's over 130 days.
130 days and she ain't letting nobody else strap her down. Y'all believe that? Do you? I mean, let me know. Somebody on the team ain't taking Griner's place. You think she's going 130 days without the D? I don't know.
And BG's still not back.
The prosecution argues Griner had the intent to import cannabis oil into Russia when she was detained at a Moscow airport on February 17th. They say Griner was carrying 2 cartridges totaling less than a gram of hash oil.
So she was carrying 2 carts. Okay, that ain't that bad. I thought it was full. It looked full. But 2 carts, 10 years. You just don't make that type of mistake in another country.
I think in most cases it wouldn't even be prosecuted in the United States.
While the Kremlin claims the case is not politically motivated, some have speculated that Griner could be released in a possible prisoner swap, but her lawyers said they were unaware of any plans.
The United States government at the very highest levels is working very hard to bring Ms. Griner, as well as all wrongfully detained U.S. citizens.
See, and that's where the faith is lost, as well as all wrong. Like once they start grouping in everybody else, then you lost. We're talking about Brittney Griner. Why are you talking about all these other people? Because they know it's hopeless.
Safely home.
But Griner's wife has her doubts.
I don't think the maximum amount of effort is being done.
She and other activists are urging
Trump would have got her out. I'll tell you that much.
President Joe Biden to strike a deal with Russia to get Griner home.
I do have to, unfortunately, also push people to make sure that things that they're telling me is.
I mean, with the diplomatic situation right now, you can't even get on the. I mean, Biden can't even get on the phone with Putin. Come on, stop it. Like, there's no way that they're going to even be able to make contact. You're going to be like, talk to my dude, talk to him, to talk to him, to talk to him, to talk to me. And then it's just a Hail Mary at this point. Like, you think that Biden is going to lift any of the sanctions that he has, unsuccessfully implemented on Russia that got our gas prices going through the roof? You think that he is going to lift up any sanctions or any restrictions or embargoes or whatnot in order to bring Brittney Griner home? You got to be out of your mind.
It's also matching their actions.
While declining to give details for security reasons, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan maintains that the Biden administration is actively engaged in this case. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Quavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Just hearing her words, talking about her father being a Vietnam vet, her new perspective on freedom, her wanting to be with her family and her teammates, her not knowing that she'll ever be free again.
Pay attention. Her new perspective on freedom. Brittney Griner, she felt so oppressed in the U.S. She did. She was one of them. BLM, we're so oppressed. We're marginalized. Say what you want to say about the states. As of now, even though we have, we've been robbed of a lot of rights, right? This is the best place to be. Even with all the violence going down, you can still find you something in the cut to avoid a lot of that in this vast land. It's getting a little hard now, but you can do it. But she has a newfound sense of freedom. And she's probably going to hold some type of resentment for the states for not getting her back to freedom, or maybe just for Biden. But I definitely think she's going to think twice about speaking that oppressed mess when she comes back, if she comes back.
On our day of freedom, hearing those words from such a beloved person.
And the thing is also, she said something about she said something about her freedom, right? And then just her situation right now is so different from anything that she's ever experienced in her life. She ended up getting caught red-handed, unfortunately. Tried to bring them carts through. But it's just really, the timing was horrible. And you could tell she was probably geeked up getting on the plane.
To be with her family and her teammates, her not knowing that she'll ever be free again. on our day of freedom, hearing those words from such a beloved person. Yeah, it's great. And it's great that she was able to get that message to us.
They also said earlier that her spirits were high, but it doesn't really sound like it. It sounds like she went to that damn court date and was like, oh, it's OV. She ain't understand nothing. She didn't understand the language. She didn't understand anything they were saying in the courtroom. They finna violate her.
And hopefully some people are paying attention to it. Of course, the Biden administration and our State Department.
The Biden administration, they ain't finna do a damn thing.
Putting that at the front of their messaging would be amazing for us.
And you know what? I definitely think if Trump was in office, he would have got Brittney Griner out, because he got LaMelo Ball out of China. So, and Brittney Griner was anti-Trump and all this stuff, but I bet she wished that Trump pardoned Kodak. I bet she wished Trump was still the president.
WNBA star and Texas native Brittney Griner has written an open letter to President Biden while detained in a Russian prison. The letter reads, quote, "As I sit here in a Russian prison alone with my thoughts and without the protection of my wife, family, friends, Olympic jersey, or any accomplishments, I'm terrified I might be here forever."
Well, there you have it. If you want Brittney Griner back, I guess you're gonna have to vote Trump. Because he was the only one who was really getting folks off, honestly. Man, Brittney Griner made a decision that will last her a lifetime. That is insane. I mean, she royally messed up. She messed up big time. This is probably the biggest dose of accountability that she'll ever take. And she was, she had some DV charges in the States, domestic violence, her fighting, her girlfriend. Y'all know that LGBT relationships are some of the most violent when it comes to domestic violence. But wow, this is crazy.
On the 4th of July, our family normally honors the service of those who fought for our freedom, including my father, who is a Vietnam War veteran. It hurts thinking about how I usually celebrate this day because freedom means something completely different to me this year.
Wow. I mean, but was she celebrating 4th of July in good faith? Because, I mean, if you look at the past tweets and see, this is why it's bad to go woke and denounce your country, the country that you're living in, because now you're begging for the leadership of your country that you've denounced help, that you also help vote in, and he's not going to do a damn thing for you. When you had a guy in office who would have looked at your case and really would have, I mean, I really believe whether she was on the left or the right, Trump would have got her out. Point blank. There would have been a deal it would have been the art of the deal, baby. But obviously she denounced Trump, and that was the only dude who was really getting people out in these overseas debacles that a lot of times they got themselves into.
I realize you are dealing with so much, but please don't forget about me and the other American detainees. Please do all you can to bring us home. I voted for the first time in 2020, and I voted for you.
This just makes it even worse. It makes it even worse. You voted for Brandon. You voted for the potato, bruh, and he is not doing a damn thing for you. Dang, this is the nail. That's the nail in the coffin right there. That's the irony. That's the irony right there. I mean, I already got the caption for the thumbnail. This is crazy. I got to run that back. She voted for Brandon.
Don't forget about me and the other American detainees. Please do all you can to bring us home. I voted for the first time in 2020, and I voted for you. I believe in you.
Wow.
I still have so much good to do with my freedom.
He probably can't even remember her name. I bet if he walked by a reporter and they said, "Hey, Joe Biden, what do you plan to do to get Brittney Griner out of Russia?" Brittney who? Brittney who?
That you can help restore. I miss my wife. I miss my family. I miss my teammates. It kills me to know they are suffering so much right now. I am grateful for whatever you can do at this moment to get me home, end quote. Now, Griner was detained at a Moscow airport in February and is accused of carrying vape cartridges containing cannabis oil. Her trial in Russia
should have had that CBD.
Has been postponed until July 7th.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, cyberspace? It's a Black Gen Z mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video. So, guys, we are going to be breaking down this Brittney Griner situation. Man, they really traded Brittney Griner for essentially a Russian mercenary called the Merchant of Death. We've got to talk about it. You know, Brittney Griner's future really didn't seem too bright a few months ago, and it has actually brightened up. She's been swapped out in what I consider a one-sided deal. And it's pretty shocking that Brittney Griner was actually traded instead of some other people who are locked up in Russia right now. But I'm happy she's home. Okay, I'm happy that she's free. I definitely think 9 years for 2 vape carts is OD. And she should have just got time served and been on her way. But that's not how the country of Russia works, especially when you are, you know, moving around during wartime. Okay, it wasn't the best decision to go to Russia. She could have just read the room and understood that, hey, there's a high likelihood that something could happen over here. So let me just stay my behind in the States. Now, I can't wait to actually hear what she's got to say personally. But I do want to show you guys just some of the visuals from this historical moment in not only Black history, but LGBT history as well. Okay, so, and you know, let's see. All right, let's get it. Let's get it. Let me show you guys the video of when she was actually the actual swap. Okay. All right, here we go. Let me pull it up. Man, she got lucky. She got lucky. We just got reports that she was shipped off. We just got reports that she was shipped off to oh yeah, and they made her cut her shit. We just got reports that she was shipped off to like a higher security prison. So there she goes right there. They made her cut all her dreads. Here is the Merchant of Death. Okay. Shaking hands after being released. And he's probably going to go back to, you know, go back to normal. Go back to doing what he was doing. Being a spy. Selling arms. Inciting civil wars. All across the world. Victor Bout. He just gave a head nod to Brittney Griner. She was happy as fuck. She was just happy to be swapped out. That nigga just gave a head nod to Brittney Griner, like, what's good? Yo, man, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. So we trade Brittney Griner instead of trading. There's a Marine who is actually still left in Russia, in Russian prison. I think his name is Paul Whelan. Okay. His family was very upset about this prisoner swap. Okay. That shit is crazy, man. Guys, we are streaming on Facebook. We're streaming on Twitch. We're streaming on Twitter. We're streaming on the Rumble, guys. Support alternative media. You got to check out my backups. My backup channel, BGZM News 17. Sign up for the Patreon because they're doing their best to limit the message.
What's your mood? Happy. Well,
God damn.
Yes. Yeah.
And they got a deeper voice than me.
Do you know where I'm heading to? No. No? No. Вы летите домой. You fly back home. To the US. To the US. Да, конечно. Так что все будет нормально. Everything will be fine.
Boy, she was scared as fuck too when she got in that damn plane. Oh man. She really caught a break. She's lucky that the states are so woke. And shout out to her girl who never gave up on her. We spoke about her girl, or her wife rather. We thought she was going to be jumping on the next strap. If Brittney Griner had to really sit down for 9 years, but she toughed it out. Brittney Griner was in custody for, I think, 294 days, almost a full calendar year. Now she's back out here and she is ready to strap up and start clapping some lipstick lesbian cheeks again.
Standing together with her wife Sherelle in the Oval Office, I spoke with Brittney Griner. She's safe. She's on a plane. She's on her way home. After months of being unjustly detained in Russia, held under intolerable circumstances. Brittney will soon be back in the arms of her loved ones, and she should have been there all along. Moments ago, standing together.
Today, my family is whole, but as you all are aware, there's so many other families who are not whole. And so BG's not here to say this, but I will gladly speak on her behalf and say that BG and I will remain committed to the work of getting every American home, including Paul, whose family is in our hearts today. As we celebrate BG being home, we do understand that there are still people out here who are enduring what I endured the last 9 months of missing tremendously their loved ones. So thank you everybody for your support. And today it's just a happy day for me and my family. So I'm gonna smile right now. Today.
And I ain't gonna lie, Cheryl is good with the public perception. She's good with the political correctness. I mean, everything she said there is something that you could get behind, right? It's like it's like everything that she's saying is kind of obviously, it's coming from her heart or whatever, but it is political correctness. It's she has a lot of media training, you can tell. What I will say is they definitely should have prioritized the brother Paul, okay, to come back. This is definitely going to be used as a point of reference for Biden to earn the black vote, which honestly, I'm gonna keep it a buck, y'all. I think if they run him again, he'll win. I really think that, for real, because I just don't see enough. And I know people are saying Trump. I don't see it, man. I just don't see it. After all the things that they've been doing to Trump, even after his presidency, it's hard for me to see the finish line. I don't want Biden in there term, but it's just, man, I just think people are just so, they're just so against Trump. And then there's just like a heavy brainwashing when it comes to like the leftist ideology anyway. So yeah, it's pretty tough situation here. Sherelle obviously is doing her thing and speaking up, and she's finally in her baby's arms once again. Okay. But I just find it interesting that they would let this man, Paul Whelan, just keep sitting in that Russian prison, and he'd been there longer than Brittney. That's a damn shame. I think that's a travesty.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jerika Duncan. Nora is on assignment. Her interview with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen in just a moment. But first, American Brittney Griner is on her way home. She was arrested for possession of cannabis oil nearly 10 months ago, sentenced to 9 years in prison, and sent to a penal colony in Russia. Her release was part of a prisoner swap for international arms dealer Victor Boot. The so-called merchant of death was serving a 25-year federal prison sentence in Illinois for conspiring to kill Americans and for supporting terrorism. Left out of the deal was ex-Marine Paul Whelan, imprisoned in Russia since 2018 on espionage charges.
Damn. And they just left my man out there. And you see Paul, you know, obviously his family is you know, campaigning for his release, but he's standing up there 10 toes down. He's claiming his innocence. He ain't up here crying, doing all this hooting and hollering. He's an elderly, you know, Caucasian man. And he's taking the punches, bro. He really is. He ain't out here talking about, oh, this, that, and the third. Obviously, there is a Free Him campaign for sure. But you see, in the community, we are more likely to free people who are in the wrong. And in this case, unfortunately, Brittney Griner was in the wrong. She got caught red-handed, and she took the L. Do I think that it was a heavy-handed sentence? For sure. Okay. But at the same time, you're in another country. You have to abide by their rules. That's just the game. And you have to read the room.
We have team coverage tonight of this story and begin with CBS's Margaret Brennan. Margaret, good evening.
And good evening to you, Jerika. These final details came together within just the past 48 hours. U.S. officials feared it could all fall apart, and it wasn't until very early this morning that officials here in Washington breathed a sigh of relief when Brittney Griner finally boarded a U.S. plane.
I'm glad to be able to say that Brittney's in good spirits. She's relieved to finally be heading home.
Gathered in the Oval Office, President Biden and Brittney Griner's wife, Sherelle, spoke by phone with the 32-year-old basketball star once she had been handed over.
Today, I'm just standing here, overwhelmed with emotions.
Russian state media showed video of the swap on the tarmac at Al Bateen Airport in Abu Dhabi. Griner and convicted arms dealer Victor Boot walked towards one another and then headed to separate planes home. In Russian video filmed days earlier, Griner is seen signing what appears to be release form.
Guys, hit that PayPal, hit that Cash App. Super Trap is no longer available. This channel has been demonetized. So if you want to show your support, PayPal, Cash App, GoFundMe, or the Patreon. Also, you can cop the merch.
Do you know where I'm heading to? No. No? You fly back home. To the U.S. To the U.S.
President Biden agreed last week to free Boot in order to bring Griner home. It follows months of public pressure from Griner's fellow athletes and quiet contact between the CIA and Russian intelligence, who exchanged messages between Vladimir Putin's Kremlin and Mr. Biden.
Wow.
Throughout the summer, the Biden administration had tried to bring home both Griner and 52-year-old Paul Whelan, a private corporate security contractor who had been imprisoned for 4 years on espionage charges. But Russia refused.
I wish that Paul Whelan had been on that plane too.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
We got to the point where it was clear that there was an opportunity to bring Brittney back. The choice wasn't between getting one American or the other back. It was the choice before us was one or none.
Whelan was also left behind in April when the Biden administration negotiated the release of Marine veteran Trevor Reed. Today, a devastated Whelan spoke by phone from a Russian penal colony.
My treatment is also much different than others held for espionage at other prisons.
Yeah, see, he was being treated way worse than Brittney Griner. I mean, obviously, former military, they're going to feel some type of way. It's definitely a sad thing to see.
Meanwhile, Griner is en route to Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, where she will get an evaluation.
Today, my family is whole, but as you all are aware, there's so many other families who are not whole.
Speaking of families not being whole, Margaret, what's next for Paul Whelan's attempt to come home?
Well, Jerika, Secretary Blinken told me this afternoon that this was just a one-for-one transaction, nothing more and nothing less. In other words, this isn't a diplomatic breakthrough that opens the door to other opportunities. And it also isn't clear what other cards the U.S. has left to play here to secure the release of Whelan or another American, Mark Fogel, who's been detained on drug charges. Over the course of the last few months, the U.S. has offered numerous Russians who are being held here in the U.S., and the Kremlin declined to take the offer. Their top priority was a one-for-one swap and Victor Boot himself.
All right, Margaret Brennan covering the story from the very beginning. Thank you.
So there you have it. It's a little breakdown of the situation. We will actually show the full press conference where Biden released Brittney Griner, and we'll break it down a little bit. I do want to pivot to another story that came through, because we're not the only ones who are feeling some type of way about this prison swap. I think Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons actually says, wait, what? We left the Marine? Hell nah. Okay. And as you can see, he was responding to another tweet by somebody who basically explained the situation. People were not having it in the comments. They were flaming him. They were upset. This guy says, thanks for apologizing, Micah. Now you should delete this tweet. So you see this elderly leftist telling people what to do. Okay. All right. These are the guys who claim that they're the ones who are not racist, but you sitting up here telling bro what to tweet. There's no comparison between these two cases. Whelan is an accused spy. Griner was an accused drug user. Efforts for the release of both were made and continue for Whelan. The ignorance of the comment here is stunning. So people did not like what he said. Traded an arms dealer who presents a clear and present danger to Americans for a basketball player who couldn't follow the laws of the country she was going to, and abandoned a Marine. Nice to know what our country thinks of us and our service. Okay. They say read the family statement. Paul Whelan was a former Marine who was given a bad conduct discharge many years prior to his arrest in Russia in 2018. The Marine status has very little to do with the legal situation in Russia. So it sounds like some people on Twitter are basically trying to say that he's being held justly, citing a bad conduct release from the Marines. Let's see. So somebody said Bud just get sacks. So they're telling him to, basically shut up and dribble. This guy with the Saquon Barkley profile picture. And then this individual responds, laugh out loud. So a man whose job just so happens to be a football player isn't able to speak his mind on any issues. His only job is to get sacks, and that's it. So as you can see, Twitter is kind of lighting up over his comments. And then he ends up clarifying. He says, my last tweet was no shot at Brittney Griner. I'm super happy she's back home as she should be. I just have family who have served, and it's crazy to me the president wouldn't bring him home too. I'm the furthest thing from a Trump supporter, but I'm not a fan of Biden either. Okay. The best outcome was accomplished. I pray Mr. Whalen comes home, but am extremely happy for Brittney and her family. I am not too prideful to admit when I've made a mistake. So they already, like, they're forcing him to capitulate on his statement. Just spoke to some people that I respect and trust. I should have been more educated on the topic and not tweeted out of emotion for my family and others who have served. For that, I apologize. Also, if what I'm told about the attempts to bring retired Marine Paul Whalen home are true, I guess this is a thread. I don't know. So here you go. People are kind of responding to that. But just like that, he made a statement. He felt strongly about it. And then social media forces him to capitulate. I mean, they won't let brothers have their own independent thought if it doesn't align with the narrative. That's just what I've come to understand with my demonetization, with my stifling, if you will, algorithmically. Okay. They don't want black men who have their own opinions that don't align with the leftist agenda to have a voice. And that's pretty much what it is. You have this brother who they're trying to make him seem stupid, you know, saying the shut up and get sacks or just get sacks, bro. Trying to make him seem stupid, you know. Learning football defenses is not easy. And I'm not saying that all these guys are just like whizzes or anything like that. But what I am saying is, you know, the brother obviously has a good head on his shoulders. Okay. Has a good head on his shoulders. And then he ended up quoting Kobe Bryant, saying, I refuse to change what I am. A lion has to eat. And yeah. So it's that was an old tweet. It's just his pinned tweet. But anyways, yeah, they just can't let the brother have his own opinion. And I think that's sad. It's ridiculous.
How did this all come together?
Well, what finally happened was the U.S. recognized, and I think Stephen was saying this before, that it was this deal or nothing. They had been pushing all along to get both Paul Whalen and Brittney Griner home. There was a comment from a senior Russian official just about 2 weeks ago saying, hey, we're working in good faith. We're optimistic. And a State Department official quickly shot back, no, you're not. If you're really acting in good faith, then act like it. It was an unusual, and as we've seen many times with Brittney Griner's case, another unprecedented public airing of U.S. frustration. But something happened in those past 2 weeks where the U.S. realized, okay, this is all we're going to get. They called Paul Whelan's family yesterday to say that this was going to happen, so that they were aware Paul was not coming home.
So Russia said this or nothing, basically, and we had to make the move, I guess. And that just shows the little respect that Biden commands, that they're giving him commands. They're giving us commands, okay? Let's read some of y'all comments. Shout out to AlphaZo. He said Micah Parsons may lose Defensive Player of the Year because of public speaking about this, because it's going to Boza now. Valid Chris says Micah probably just lost some endorsements. That's why he apologized. Follow the money. Facts. Nick Campbell says he didn't delete the tweet though. P. Ann says, but Brit's domestic violence charges are ignored. Yeah, that's facts. I mean, it ain't like they were trying to bring up Paul Whelan's past, but it ain't like Brittney Griner hasn't had had her interactions with the law, and even in the States. AlphaZo says, but Jerry Jones has been proven with picture evidence of supporting division and racism, but has to apologize, donated to the ALC, visited a black museum for reinstitutionalism, etc. No one says that's that nigga's fault. Keith says, I think Mike Pompeo is an excellent candidate for Republicans. Pete Ann says, leftists feel comfortable calling non-complying black men all the racial slurs. Facts. No one says, Ali, X, King are rolling in their graves. So many weak-ass black men out here in modern times. Yeah. Nunya says, Jones was 14 years old too. Let's see. No one says John Carlos and Tommy Smith also shaking their heads.
That didn't happen in April when American Trevor Reed came home and the family was upset. But in this case, they said they completely understand. This was the deal they could make. The White House had to make it.
TJ, thank you for being on the show. Again, you might have already answered the question, but I'm still going to ask anyway. Over the last couple of weeks or so, anything specific stand out? Because I'm still thinking, you know, the way I was thinking about it, well, what the United States was offering, they've been offering. The war in Ukraine is still going on. I'm saying, well, what happened in the last few weeks that made them change course? Because I can't think of anything, even though you pointed out how they said they were acting in good faith and the United States said, no, you're not, because we're standing here. But that's basically public pressure. And they thus far, Russia hasn't seemed to care too much about that to begin with. So I'm wondering if there's anything specific that you could point to that may have transpired over the last 2 or 3 weeks that may have changed course, forced them to change course.
I mean, to hear, to hear from the U.S. officials I've spoken to, it was just recognizing this is all that Russia's willing to do. Beyond that, I'm guided by the one lesson that has really been driven home for me over the past 9 months of working on this story, is that when a deal like this happens, often there are pieces we never hear about. What we know about is the one-for-one trade. We know Russia wanted that early. But in deals like this, sometimes there are elements to it involving people we have never heard of, involving concessions that we will never hear about. There could be, this could be a way for Russia to say, look, we just traded to get this hero of Russia back home. It's a political domestic victory for Vladimir Putin to be able to do that. And maybe they have something else in mind with Paul Whelan. So all I can tell you is, you know, what changed is that the U.S. said, this is a deal we can do, and they will do it. But I'm just constantly reminded that I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, man. Like I said, we're happy that Brittney Griner is back home. The terms of the deal, you know, I think that this is an L for the U.S. Politically. But, you know, as far as Brittney being back home and being able to throw on that strap again and not have to worry about getting lice or STDs, and she can, you know, put on that prosthetic cock and balls and go to town again, you know, I'm happy for her. So anyways, let's watch the actual report here and break this thing down, okay?
Can imagine, but this
is an ABC News special report.
Good morning. We want to go straight to the White House. President Biden on the release of Brittney Griner.
Tolerable circumstances. Brittney will soon be back in the arms of her loved ones, and she should have been there all along. This is a day we've worked toward for a long time. We never stopped pushing for her release. It took painstaking and intense negotiations, and I want to thank all the hardworking public servants across my administration who worked tirelessly to secure her release. I also want to thank the UAE for helping us facilitate Brittney's return, because that's where she landed. These past few months have been hell for Brittney and for Charlie and her entire family and all her teammates back home. People all across the country have learned about Brittney's story, advocated for her release, stood with her throughout this terrible ordeal. And I know that support meant a lot to her family. I'm glad to be able to say that Brittney's in good spirits. She's
yeah, and Brittney is finna come back to a bag. She's gonna have she might start a 501c3, you know, a global prisoners advocacy program or some shit. She's gonna come back to a lot of opportunities in the States as long as she just toes the line, you know, says what they want her to say and keep her mouth shut. I mean, she's finna get that bag. She could potentially flip this into being the most paid WNBA player to ever be on the planet. and this is facts. She is fin to come into a bag. PN says a headline on MSNBC reads, Brittney Griner deserves more than American support. She deserves American cash. Yeah, she's finna come into a bag.
Leave to finally be heading home. And the fact remains that she's lost months of her life, experienced a needless trauma. She deserves space.
I mean, it's good to see Kamala Harris. We ain't seen her ass in a minute, right?
Privacy and time with her loved ones to recover and heal from her time being wrongfully detained. Brittney is an incomparable athlete, a two-time Olympic gold medalist for Team USA. She endured mistreatment and a show trial in Russia with characteristic grit and incredible dignity. She represents the best about America. It is across the board, everything about her. She wrote to me back in July.
That nigga lost his place on the teleprompter.
She didn't ask for special treatment, even though we've been working on a release from the day one. She requested a simple quote, please don't forget about me and the other American detainees. Please do all you can to bring us home. We never forgot about Brittney. We've not forgotten about Paul Whelan, who's been unjustly detained in Russia for years. This was not a choice of which American to bring home. We brought home Trevor Reed when we had a chance earlier this year. Sadly, for totally illegitimate reasons, Russia is treating Paul's case differently than Brittney's. And while we have not yet succeeded in securing Paul's release, we are not giving up. We will never give up. We remain in close touch with Paul's family, the Whelan family, and my thoughts and prayers are with them today. They have to have such mixed emotions today. And we'll keep negotiating in good faith for Paul's release. I guarantee that. I say that to the family. I guarantee you. And I urge Russia to do the same to ensure that Paul's health and humane treatment maintained until we are able to bring him home. I don't want any American to sit wrongfully detained and one extra day if we can bring that person home. My administration has now brought home dozens of Americans who were wrongfully detained or held hostage abroad, many of whom had been held since before I took office. And today, we also remember the other Americans that are being held hostage and wrongfully detained in Russia or anywhere else in the world. Reuniting these Americans with their loved ones remains a priority for my administration, every person in my administration involved in this. And we're going to continue to work to bring home every American who continues to endure such an injustice. We also want to prevent any more American families from suffering this pain and separation. And I strongly urge all Americans to take precautions, including reviewing the State Department's travel advisories before they travel overseas, which now includes warning.
All right, listen up, passport bros. Listen up, passport bros. He's talking to y'all. He's talking to y'all. I mean, Brittney Griner got caught up. Next, it could be you. You never know. You never know. Gots to be careful.
Warnings about the risk of being wrongfully detained by a foreign government. Make no mistake about it. This work is not easy. Negotiations are always difficult. There are never any guarantees. But it's my job as President of the United States to make the hard calls and protect American citizens everywhere in the world, anywhere in the world. And I'm proud that today we have made one more family whole again. So welcome home, Brittney. And now I'd like to invite Sherelle to say a few words to y'all. Of course, she's not excited at all about this. Sherelle, it's all yours, kiddo. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
His sarcasm's even trash.
So over the last 9 months, y'all have been so privy to one of the darkest moments of my life. And so today I'm just standing here overwhelmed with emotions, but the most important emotion that I have right now is just sincere gratitude for President Biden and his entire administration. He just mentioned this work is not easy, and it has not been. There's been so many hands involved. And so I'd like to take a moment to just specifically mention a few. Vice President Harris, Secretary Blinken, Jake Sullivan, Josh Geltzer from the National Security Council, Roger Cartson and Fletcher Schoen from the Hostage Envoy's Office. A special thank you to Governor Richardson and Mickey, the Mercury players, the WNBA for your advocacy. And also, you guys may not know this, but my family has been tremendously supported by the Wasserman Agency. BG's agent, Lindsay Colas, has just been amazing for me and my family throughout this process. So today my family is whole, but as you all are aware, there's so many other families who are not whole. And so BG's not here to say this, but I will gladly speak on her behalf and say that BG and I will remain committed to the work of getting every American home, including Paul, whose family is in our hearts today as we celebrate BG being home. We do understand that there are still people out here who are enduring what I endured the last 9 months of missing tremendously their loved ones. So thank you everybody for your support. And today it's just a happy day for me and my family. So I'm gonna smile right now. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. President, what has Russia gotten in return, Mr. President? What has Russia gotten in return for this prisoner? When will Brittney be back in the U.S.?
They grilling his ass. He's like, that nigga, he looked like he finna pass out any moment, at any moment.
Happy day there for Brittney Griner's wife, Sherelle. Brittney Griner, of course, on her way home now,
He said,
on a plane,
peace.
on her way back from Russia to the United States. President Biden just announcing the release their trade for arms dealer Victor Boot. Cecilia Vega at the White House, something the president is working on for months.
George, they've been working on this at the highest levels of these governments between here in the United States and Moscow with constant talks. And as you heard the president say, not just talks between these governments, the president has been in close contact over these last 9 months with Sherelle Griner. George, we have to pause and talk about that smile on Sherelle Griner's face. What a day for this family to see Brittney Griner, as she called her by her nickname, BG, on her way home.
BG, I'm dead.
President Biden posting on Instagram and Twitter this photo saying just moments ago, you can see right there, they were on the phone with Brittney Griner. He says she is safe. She is on a plane. She is on her way home. We know that Griner was pardoned by Putin before she left Russia, that this swap between these two prisoners, for the prisoner exchange happened at the Abu Dhabi airport early this morning. And President Biden saying just now, this was a choice. This was not a choice about which American to bring home, because Paul Whelan is still in custody, and he is saying that Moscow views that as a very different case, that he will work to continue, the administration will continue to try to bring him home. You heard Sherelle Griner there say that this will be both her and Brittney's mission going forward, that they remain committed to getting these other Americans home. But George, the headline here, the smile on her face, Brittney Griner is on her way home. What a day this is. What a coup for this administration.
She back, y'all. So let's see, if her tone changes on the country that pretty much saved her ass.
But most importantly, Brittney Griner is on her way home as we speak.
Cecilia Vega, thanks. Let's go to Martha Raddatz. Martha, the president did devote so much of that statement to the case of Paul Whelan as well, and we've already heard from Whelan's family.
We have, George, an incredibly gracious yet heartbreaking statement. Let me read part of it. I am so glad. This is from David Whelan, Paul's twin brother. I am so glad that Brittney Griner is on her way home as the family member of a Russian hostage. I can literally only imagine the joy she will have being reunited with her loved ones. The Biden administration made the right decision to bring Ms. Griner home and to make the deal that was possible rather.
So it looks like Paul's family is they're in support of this deal. As you can see, he's holding up a sign that says sham trial, meatball surgery, no human rights. Paul's life matters. Decisive action from POTUS and PMs, prime ministers needed. Happy birthday, Flora.
Than waiting for one that wasn't going to happen. Now, when Trevor Reed was released earlier this year, the family released a statement. Paul Whelan said, "Why was I left behind?" But that is not happening this time. David said in the statement, "It is so important to me to make clear that we do not begrudge Ms. Griner
her freedom. But he said, at some level, our family has steeled ourselves for this likelihood, despite the possibility that there might be an exchange without Paul. Our family is still devastated. They, of course, George, are very worried about his health. He has been there 4 years and has many 12 years to go on that sentence. So there is a lot of worry in the Whelan family, but again, an incredibly gracious statement. And President Biden, of course, mentioned that he will stay on this case, and Sherelle as well.
And Martha, we also heard President Biden say that the Russians insist on treating Paul Whelan's case differently. At minimum, he's another bargaining chip.
And another bargaining chip. I guess they weren't about to release two people who are being detained for just Victor Bout, although that is a major exchange. Excuse me. So the Russians will try something else, you can imagine. But this is a very different case, and the Whelans say that as well. Paul Whelan was accused of spying, and they claim, again, that he had a USB drive on him that contained the names of intelligence officers, and he has been detained since 2018 and charged with spying. Obviously, a very serious charge in Russia, George.
Martha Raddatz, thanks. Pierre Thomas, Victor Bout, notorious arms dealer, his heyday in the 90s.
Known as the Merchant of Death. And this was a person that U.S. law enforcement had wanted to serve every bit of his sentence. But clearly, the freedom of Brittney Griner became the priority. Law enforcement knew it. They went along with this, helped facilitate it, George. But clearly, this was a man who was involved in flying weapons all across the world, including to Africa, where thousands of people were killed, supposedly, with his weapons. The DEA eventually took him down in a sting operation. He's now on a plane flying back to Russia. But all smiles.
He's just finna pick up where he left off.
A lot of people are very happy that Brittney Griner, her nightmare is over.
Pierre Thomas, Victor Bout, no real intelligence value now. I mean, all of his activities were so long ago.
Absolutely. His intelligence.
Now they trying to minimize how bad of a guy he is. I mean, he's literally nicknamed the Merchant of Death, and this nickname is coming from intelligence agencies, so they must know a lot more about what he's responsible for than we do.
Opportunities to wreak havoc are over. The U.S. law enforcement had tried to get information from him, obviously, but now he's of limited value in terms of intelligence. Some law enforcement.
So they were trying to get information from him, and I mean, he gave them what could save his life, enough to save his life, I guess, or at least make his prison stay habitable. And, you know, now there's nothing more that they can gain from him, and they're releasing him back to the streets.
Officials, of course, wanted him to serve his sentence, to pay a penalty for all that death that he helped bring about across the world. But again, everyone today happy that Brittney Griner is coming home.
Okay, Pierre, thanks. I want to bring in our military analyst, Steve Gannon. Of course, Steve, this comes as we're seeing Vladimir Putin's forces face trouble in Ukraine. That's the backdrop for this entire negotiation.
Yeah, George, it all comes back down to Ukraine and for Putin trying to gain negotiating leverage and to get the U.S. to come off of its very hard line on Ukraine. I do want to go back just briefly to something that President Biden said that's very important here. And he made the comment here that people need to be careful about where and when they travel. Look at the State Department advisories. What he's saying is that the Russians will always hold some Americans on trumped up charges. And so they may have let Brittney Griner go here today, but they will grab somebody somewhere else and have them as a negotiating tool sometime in the future. So this is what the president's saying. Be careful. Don't be that next pawn that gets grabbed.
Steve, that was a pretty remarkable warning to have that come, not some State Department bulletin, but from the president of the United States.
Yeah, we just need to stand by. This has been the Russian MO for years. It's pretty much KGB standard operating procedure. And so we can expect that the Russians will want to have at least a few Americans that they can use to negotiate when it's useful. Obviously, Brittney Griner's utility has peaked, and so Putin has let her go. But we see that Paul Whelan still is held because Putin believes that there's still some negotiating leverage to be had with him.
And Steve, does this swap at this time tell you that more is going on in possible negotiations over the war in Ukraine?
At this point, George, I think it's just scene setting and Putin trying to improve his negotiating position. This, as Martha said, this is not going to change a lot of minds, but it has been an irritant, and it's been something that the president hasn't been able to further any broader discussions with NATO allies and with the Ukrainians about potential peace negotiations, because it's just that political problem for President Biden. And now Putin has solved that, and Putin will hope that will begin to move things forward towards a negotiated settlement.
Okay, Steve Gaynor, thanks very much. I want to bring in our chief Washington correspondent, John Carl. John, we saw the smile on Sherelle Griner's face. We saw President Biden take to the cameras early this morning. He's on a pretty remarkable run over the last several weeks.
Oh my God! Now they're riding Biden's dick, bro. Biden is trash. There is no changing that. They're yo, this shit is crazy. Like I think what they're doing is, like, the first half of Biden's presidency obviously is trash. And then they're saying, well, he came back in the second half of his presidency and he like, that's going to be the narrative. You can already see it.
He sure is, George. But this one particularly sweet for President Biden. This had been such a high priority for him. And think about this. Brittney Griner has been in Russian prisons for 294 days. Almost immediately since she was detained. This was a priority, not just for the Biden administration, but personally for President Biden. And when you think about her detention coming exactly 1 week before the Russians invaded Ukraine, the negotiations against a backdrop that couldn't have been any more difficult. Biden, at the very time his administration trying to negotiate her release, also leading worldwide opposition to the Russian invasion. A tricky situation, to say the least, and one where the Russians, as Steve mentioned, were clearly trying to use her not just as a bargaining chip to get somebody else released, Victor Bout, but clearly trying to use this to gain leverage against that U.S. opposition and the U.S. worldwide opposition to the invasion of Ukraine.
John Carl, not many issues draw bipartisan support in Washington these days. Expected here.
Absolutely. I mean, this is something, and not just bipartisan, George. I mean, there was a nationwide movement to bring attention, to keep attention on this case for nearly 10 months. Sustained attention, Democrat, Republican, but also out in the sports world, the NBA, the WNBA, trying to make sure that Brittney Griner was not forgotten as she spent all that time in a Russian prison.
Martha, these negotiations always so fraught for presidents. The more you trade, the more it could encourage adversaries to take more hostages.
Exactly, and that's what administrations trouble over every time. And in the end, if you can free someone and you give up someone who is of no value essentially anymore, that cycle could continue. And I think that is exactly.
And I mean, if he was of no value, then why would Russia want him back? Like, if this was an equal trade, it would seem like Whelan and Victor would be an even trade, because or Whelan, whatever, they think Whelan is a spy, and then Victor is a merchant of death. So that would seem more like an even trade. So I mean, my thing is, if he's of no use anymore, then why would Russia want him back? Like, why would it be such a big deal, and why did they pick him to be traded back to Russian custody.
Why President Biden said, please be careful. Please do not go to places you are not supposed to be. Take heed of those State Department statements and warnings when you travel, because indeed the Russians will take someone else if someone is there, and they will negotiate. And in this one, they got Victor Bout. There's so many exchanges over the past many years. And of course, Trevor Reed was freed in an exchange as well. But now we have Brittney Griner, and we're all very happy about that.
That is the good news today. Brittney Griner is free from Russian prison on a plane now on her way home. That's all for us right now. Have a good day.
And there you have it. There you have it. I want to kind of look at more of what the news is saying about it. Then we'll get into ESPN's perspective, especially coming from their female anchors up there at ESPN. This situation, I mean, we didn't really think Brittney was coming home. So especially on this channel, we didn't think Brittney was coming home. We thought we were going to see her 9 years later. So this definitely came as a surprise.
From NBC News, this is a special report. Here's Savannah Guthrie and Hoda Kotb.
Good morning, everybody. We are following breaking news at this hour out of Russia, nearly 10 months after her arrest and incarceration there. WNBA star Brittney Griner is headed home.
Yeah, breaking and welcome news. Russia has agreed to a prisoner swap with the U.S. We're going to go straight to NBC's chief foreign affairs correspondent, Andrea Mitchell. She has these breaking details. Andrea, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Savannah and Hoda. Well, according to a senior administration official, Brittney Griner is free after 294 days in Russian captivity. The last month spent in one of Russia's notoriously harsh penal colonies. She was traded for Russian arms dealer Victor Bout, who Vladimir Putin has been trying to get back, and who had served 11 years.
So y'all heard what he said. Putin's been trying to get him back, but he serves no value. It's conflicting statements.
25-year sentence in the U.S. President Biden signed off on the trade, even though it meant leaving another American businessman, Paul Whelan, behind bars in Russia. Over the weekend, Secretary of State Antony Blinken saying the U.S. has been actively engaged in discussions with Russia about a possible prisoner swap to free Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan.
We have to see if the engagements that we've had, the discussions that we have, produce an actual result.
Griner, the 32-year-old WNBA superstar, has spent nearly 10 months in Russian custody. Arrested at a Moscow airport in February, she admitted to bringing less than a gram of medicinal cannabis into the country, but said she never intended to break any law. Her plight sparked an outpouring from her family, teammates, and fans. Griner's
Guys, hit that PayPal, Cash App. We no longer have Super Trap. If you want me to read an exclusive comment from you, we actually have Donald Trump's take on the Brittney Griner matter. He says, what a stupid and unpatriotic embarrassment for the USA. So let's read his take here. It's on my phone. He says, what kind of a deal is it to swap Brittney Griner, a basketball player who openly hates our country, for the man known as the Merchant of Death, who is one of the biggest arms dealers anywhere in the world and responsible for tens of thousands of deaths and horrific injuries? Why wasn't former Marine Paul Whelan included in this totally one-sided transaction? He would have been let out for the asking. Okay, what a stupid and unpatriotic embarrassment for the USA. So that's Trump's take on it, guys. Let me know if you agree.
Wife, Sherelle.
I'm frustrated that my wife is not going to get justice. I know you all are frustrated too. That's why you're here.
Sentenced to 9 years in prison, Griner appealed, pleading for leniency from behind bars.
This has been a very traumatic experience, waiting for this day.
But she was denied. President Biden last month.
I'm telling you, I am determined to get her home and get her home safely, along with others, I might add.
The other American held by Russia will not be coming home. Paul Whelan, a former Marine, a businessman, detained 4 years ago, is serving a 16-year prison sentence after being accused of spying, which the U.S. strongly denies. Whelan's family later raised concerns about his safety, which I asked the Secretary of State about last week.
We're working to bring him home, to bring Brittney Griner home. But this is, again, what we see Russia doing in terms of abusing the very basic understandings that countries have had when it comes to having access to our citizens who are being detained.
Those familiar with these very hard negotiations say that the Russians absolutely refused to release Paul Whelan without getting a Russian spy in return. But the U.S. insists it does not have any Russian spies in U.S. custody. So the administration says it had no one to trade to meet that Russian demand. And again, the U.S. maintains that Paul Whelan is wrongfully detained. He's a businessman, not a spy. And just now we also got a statement from the group that has been campaigning for all of these hostages to be released from all over the world, actually, saying Paul Whelan has been let down and left behind by at least 3 times by 2 American presidents. He deserves better from his government, and our campaign implores President Biden to urgently secure Paul's immediate return using all tools available. We understand the president will be speaking shortly or later.
Shout out to my guy Hulk for the $20 Cash App. He says for support and commentary. Appreciate that, Hulk. Actually, I think that's my guy Alpha Zoe. So shout out to Alpha Zoe for the $20 Cash App, man. It's tough out here when your page is not monetized for sure. That's the real deal, Holyfield. That's what you guys have to understand. I do need you guys' support because I want to grow this channel even larger. And I had editors at one point, but then I had to fire them. And they're hungry too. They're like hitting me up every week. Like, yo, like, when can we get back on? Like, I'm trying to get back on with you. And, you know, I can't afford it right now. So we're trying to build the platform so that we don't have to rely on YouTube's money. So, I mean, go hit the Rumble up, whatever, guys. We got to grow and show support there, so that we can get some funds to push this alternative media movement. Because I mean, shit, I want to have my own damn news channel now. Watching all this bullshit and getting deplatformed just kind of motivated me even more about how important it is to control media and, you know, have an avenue to the truth and not like this biased BS that we're getting from all of the major media companies today.
This morning.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you very much. The breaking news, Brittney Griner has been freed. Paul Whelan left behind. Let's go to Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander at the White House. What's the word there, Peter?
Savannah, we do expect to hear from President Biden at 8:30, so 15 minutes from now. And we have just learned that Sherelle Griner, Brittney Griner's wife, is right now in the Oval Office here at the White House. She is behind closed doors with the president. The two of them were able to speak by phone earlier this morning with Brittney Griner after she was returned to U.S. custody. And then, as we understand it, Sherelle was able to have a private conversation with her wife, Brittney, from the president's study. But this concludes for the Griner family what has just been a very distressing situation over the course of the last 10 months. The president has said this was a top priority. He had exchanged a letter with Griner in the past, who wrote him over the summer saying that she was terrified she would be there forever in Russian custody. The good news this morning that the White House will certainly be celebrating today is the release of Brittney Griner. And again, to repeat, Sherelle Griner, the president's, is in the Oval Office with the president right now and had an opportunity to speak alongside the president with her wife just this morning. Savannah, Hoda.
All right, Peter Alexander, thank you so much. We're going to continue to keep a close eye on the story all morning long. We're going to bring you updates. And of course, we'll have coverage on NBC Nightly News and all day on NBC News Now.
For now, many of our stations will return to the Today Show in New York. This is Savannah Guthrie and Hoda Kotb. Good day.
All right, let's go to the female anchors at ESPN to see their take on it.
We get to see Brittney Griner. We get to hear from Brittney Griner as a free woman. What did that make you feel?
Mixed emotions, right? One is that she's giving one-word answers like, yes, happy, let's go. 2, they asked her where she's going, and she said, I'm not sure. And that, to me, is still scary. And that has been her experience the last 9 or so months. So I am.
Oh Lord, come on. She's on her way back. Like, ain't nothing finna happen in between during the transit. Like, they're getting a little too paranoid about this. I mean, she pleaded guilty. She admitted wrongdoing. She was in the wrong. Russia had every right to hold her and sentence her to the fullest extent of their laws. That's the reality of the situation. It just seems like a lot of these women are not understanding accountability, and accountability is subjective per country. Okay, so or even per state. You could be walking around in California smoking a pound of weed, and you're not going to be held accountable for that. But then you go to the back roads, a small town in Mississippi, and you get caught with that same stuff. You're going to get chastised. Now, you're not going to get hit over the head with 9 years in the States like they did in Russia. But every state has their laws. Every country has their laws. Every continent moves a different way to basically uphold whatever civilization that they're trying to uphold with the countries within those continents. So you have to understand where you're going. You got to educate yourself and make sure that you ain't slipping and doing things that could get you locked up, because they wouldn't have had any other ammo if Brittney wouldn't have given it to them. So that's where the accountability needs to come in. But yeah, I think that these sisters here are kind of over exaggerating the danger that she's facing now. Like, yes, she was definitely facing danger while she was locked up, but that risk is significantly lower now that she is or was in transit. And I'm sure that she's back home now, putting the strap-a-lap on and taking Sherelle all the way to town.
Happy she's on a plane and she's coming home, but it just was like one of those, bittersweets. Like, wow, she really endured this, but more importantly, we're relieved she's back.
Becky? Oh, I mean, I'm over here cheesing like so. It's so big.
That's what she said.
I'm
so big.
I'm a little bit speechless just seeing her, because we haven't seen her for so long, like in that aspect where she could actually like
smiling,
talk,
laughing,
smile, and
they cut her dreads.
As you said, the fact that they asked her, he said, "Damoy, that's home," and she had the interpreter there. But I was like, I don't even know if she's aware of what's going on, or how big her name, households.
That's what I was telling you guys. That bag is on the way. You heard what she said, how big her name is. Now, they're trying to say Brittney Griner is a household name now. I wouldn't go that far. But she's finna come to a huge bag.
That don't have anything to do with basketball know her name. And that is a tribute to the W, but also a tribute to what kind of person she is. Because it is a sisterhood, and people dug in, and the W is not afraid to pick a fight and stand up for what they believe in.
As long as they got NBA money, then they'll be willing to pick a fight, okay? As long as they can siphon funds from the NBA, then they're ready to handle a fight. But with their own funds, they're not really much of an opponent.
And I think it's always admirable and courageous. And she's just an example of what a WNBA player is.
Absolutely.
Pick a fight and win. That is what we've seen. WNBA players are winners. And that I'm with you.
Well, this isn't really a W. I mean, it's not even a W for Brittney Griner. She lost 294 days of her life in what I can only imagine a very torturous, at least mentally, physically draining situation. Also, it's a L for the USA with the trade. It's like trading Steph Curry for Nate Robinson or something like that. So, and no disrespect to my man Nate, but at the end of the day, this is not a W for the country. This is not a W for even Brittney, even though she's coming home. It's still not a W because she took an L getting convicted, pleading guilty, and now she has a criminal record in Russia.
I just, that video, I want to watch it again and again.
I know.
And again, I want to bring WNBA Executive Director Terry Jackson into the conversation because, Terry, we talked on this show about the we remember when moments, right? Becky Hammond talked about remembering exactly where and when she was when she found out about Brittney's sentencing, and then the stark contrast to then finding out she's returning to the United States today. Can you walk us through that where and when feeling for you?
I don't know if I can. I'm still processing it all, but hearing that she was detained, that was a surreal moment. You're suspended, right? And over the last 10 months, we're here. I get, information last night that has me anxiously anticipating what today could be. Waking up this morning to this news and the floodgates of emotions. I haven't cried like this.
Oh my God. I mean, I know women are emotional, but damn, ain't some of y'all supposed to be dykes? Like y'all need to stand up. You feel me? Like this shit crazy.
Y'all be weak in the knees. Stand up. Stand up.
In a long time. It was such a release, such joy. Like Janae and Becky were saying, it's joy, it's sadness, it's hope, it's angst. Like we just need BG to have her feet on US soil and in the arms of her loved ones, in the arms of Sherelle. And nobody loves you.
Hey, they put on a 5 beat though in the background.
You like your mom, like your family loves you. So I can't wait to love on her too at the right time.
You said you started to get bits of information.
Love on her. Whoa, slow down there.
Yesterday that I imagine opened the door for you for hope. But when did this start to really feel like this is not just a possibility, but this is real?
When did it start to feel that way? When we put together our statement. We, our staff, and we're talking with our player leadership, and we are talking about what we're feeling, what we need to say to the world, the appreciation we need to say to the world. Thank you to the Win with Black Women Network, because this was a campaign that was driven by women, everybody. We had to thank the Biden.
You heard what she said. It was a campaign driven by women, everybody, but who ended up getting her back home? It was a man. Okay. It was men. That's the reality. That's the reality.
Administration. We had to thank so many human rights, civil rights activists and organizations that stood with us. Yeah. This was a fight. WNBA players, my members, they are fighters. I have said earlier today, this is the biggest win that we have ever seen. And we needed our supporters, our allies, our advocates to rally around us and to keep us propped up and to keep that momentum going. That's what all of this has meant. I am so thankful to the global sports community. I have been calling on them, and they stepped up and stood with us. Of course, the NBA players. Chanae, I'm going to give a shout out to them for standing up and standing with us, my son included. For everyone who signed a petition, who wore the T-shirt, who tweeted, who retweeted us. Did it matter? Yes, it mattered. It mattered. You added to this momentum.
Yes.
And you added to this big win.
They oohing and eyeing more than they be doing at church. Lord have mercy. Yes. Wow. Anyway, so there you have it. We have another take here from ESPN. And then we're gonna wrap it up with some clips from CNN and get up on out of here. But yeah, this is a very interesting story. Thank goodness that Brittney Griner, aka BG, is back home. We did not expect this to happen so quickly, but we're glad she's home ultimately. Okay, but we do hope that she learned a very valuable lesson during her times overseas and imprisoned.
You know, the WNBA players like yourself have been campaigning for Griner's release. Just your reaction that Brittney Griner is finally coming home.
I mean, my heart is just really singing with joy right now. Our sister is finally free, and this is a
And how many of these women are going to get exposed on the back end by Brittney Griner saying that they clout chasing her return home campaign? Because I feel like Brittney is going to come back home and be like, you wasn't really with me. You wasn't calling me when I was in my cell. You wasn't trying to reach out to my wife and sending me messages and nothing like that. So she's definitely receiving a lot of fake love, and she has been receiving a lot of fake love for a minute. So I wonder how long it's going to take her to start realizing that, hey, you know, maybe some of these hoes is just using me for clout.
monumental moment for everyone who has shown compassion for our WNBA sister over the last 294 days since BG was wrongfully detained. And you just saw those visuals. I watched it live this morning. We woke up to the powerful visual of President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Brittney Griner's wife, Sherelle, announcing the news, in which, honestly, Sherelle had some truly, truly powerful words. She and her family are breathing, you know, a huge sigh of relief that her wife is coming home. But she also mentioned that the work is not done. She emphatically explained that she and BG will continue to advocate to help bring others wrongfully detained home, including Paul Whelan.
Yep, and that's that clout campaign. That's where that bag is going to come, raising money for Paul Whelan's release. We gonna need an audit.
But overall, this is truly a huge moment, because what BG represents simply by existing as a Black queer woman, which is often criticized.
What the fuck? I mean, but let's keep it a buck. Are Black queer women really criticized at all? Like, I really don't think anybody gives a fuck. If anybody's criticized, it's queer Black men. Like, women, these women are rarely criticized, if ever, especially if you want to talk about real life. Okay, now social media, they might get these jokes here and there, but it's nothing compared to what would happen to a man, okay, if he came out. All right, he's going to get a lot more of the jokes. So, I mean, I really just don't see this narrative that Black queer women are really being criticized at a high level. I just don't see it.
Which is often ignored. This shows to the world that she's worth fighting for, period. BG is coming home, but I think we all must remember the other Americans wrongfully detained and continue to fight for their safe return. So I feel emotional. My spirit is happy. But as always, this is something you've seen with WNBA players. When they win, which I know it's been a long experience for her, but this, as Sherelle said, is a win for her and her family. They continue to advocate for others. And I thought that was a beautiful moment. And everyone in the WNBA family, I mean, like, I'm looking at my phone.
Yo, I got another question. How long until Brittney Griner comes back and says, you know, I was thinking over there in Russia and you know, I want some new bitches. What if she, I mean, all the new clout that she's getting, what if she replaces Sherelle? And Sherelle been down with her, meeting with the president, advocating on her behalf, and then boom. You know? Because at first we was talking about, is Sherelle going to be loyal these 9 years? And I mean, throughout these 294 days, I don't know. She could have been taking D on the low. Who knows? Like I always say, there's no such thing as a lipstick lesbian. Either she has taken dick in the past, or she is currently taking dick, or she is going to take dick in the future. So, and you know, Sherelle, she seems more on the lipstick side of things. But what I mean, it ain't like she's like a bad bitch either. But yeah, I don't know. What if Brittney is feeling a little different about the relationship dynamic? I'm sure she's thankful for all the work that Sherelle has put in, but what if she comes home and is just like, you know, I want some new.
People are just very grateful that our sister is on her way back.
You know, what does this say about the WNBA? Because they have long been in the forefront, not only on this issue, but when you talk about social justice issues as well. What does this say about the league?
Bruh, the only social justice that WNBA is fighting for is quote unquote equal pay, which they don't deserve.
And those players.
I always say this, the WNBA, we are not new to this. We are true to this. We understand that basketball grants us so many great privileges to not only make a living, but also to experience and travel the world. And I think a lot of people, this opened their eyes to the realities of the situations and the experience of W players. But I think this true moment just shows you that we always think bigger than ourselves because our existence.
Bruh, this was the biggest example of oppression, which, I mean, it wasn't even oppression. She was rightfully detained, rightfully convicted. She pled guilty to the charges. But this is this is like their biggest thing here, this Brittney Griner situation. Like, I mean, what are y'all really fighting for? I mean, I'm asking genuinely, because when we talk about the pay shit, well, who's supposed to be supporting y'all? Women don't support y'all. Women don't buy y'all tickets. Every WNBA game that I've ever been to, there were majority men in the stands. Every female basketball event that I go to, it's mainly men who are buying those tickets. So y'all are fighting a cause, but y'all need to talk to the women who are, or the quote unquote bad bitches, or just regular women in general who don't play sports. Y'all need to talk to them and have them come out in droves and support you guys, and so that y'all can get more endorsement deals, because you're just not bringing in the bread like that.
Primarily as a league that is predominantly full of Black women and allies, we've seen that moments like this, even when we're in our deepest struggle, we try to continue to advocate for others. And so Brittney, I mean, we just are so grateful that she is on her way home. She is family to us. We're grateful for those who have worked tirelessly around the clock to make this happen, whether it's the administration, the WNBA Players Association, Sherelle. She has been working constantly to raise her name, and now we're seeing the fruits of the labor. And I think it just reminds us that, you know, the real work, the true work will never go in vain, and that the power of sports collectively, particularly as women, cannot be ignored.
Lots of word salad there, guys. A lot of these chicks be trying to sound inspirational, and it's just like, LOL. Anyways.
Nick Payton Walsh, you were the last person to sit down with Victor Boot for an interview. I've seen your interviews. He denied in those interviews that he was guilty of the crimes he was charged with. He called them BS. Fact is, though, those crimes were well documented. Tell us more about them.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's what he eventually found himself extradited to the United States from Thailand.
Like the video, share the video. As you can see, YouTube is playing with my numbers. I've got over 6.6 or 6.7K subs and only 27 people in the building. Obviously, they're not sending out the notifications. Y'all know we used to have this damn chat rocking, even at 1,000 subs. So the numbers aren't making sense, guys. Support the channel, buy the merch, Cash App, Super Trap. Well, no more Super Trap, PayPal. Show some love, like the video, share the video, comment on the video. Come on.
And for which was a complicated sting put forward by the DEA, US agents who were pretending to be Colombian terrorists and got Victor Boot to essentially agree to supply them with a high-tech weaponry. That led to a lengthy extradition battle that got him extradited to the US, that led him to be convicted and put into a US jail. And then there's the career history, which is an extraordinary litany of crimes that Victor Boot has denied. And they involve the proliferation of small arms, heavy arms across Africa, during some of the nastiest wars there of the 90s and the early 2000s, and other accusations of arms trading. Frankly, you name it, in the 90s and early 2000s, if there was a war, there were accusations that Victor Bout may have been involved supplying what the West would have considered to be the wrong side. He always denied that entirely, but Jim, that was the extraordinary paradox.
You heard what he said. The West considered the wrong side. So, I mean, if he was supplying guns for the quote unquote right side, then he'd be fine. Like, I just saw an article from the New York Times that said there was this Ukrainian American couple who basically made 30 mil off of an arms deal selling ammunition to Ukrainian officials or whatnot. So, I mean, as long as you're selling the weapons to the right side from a U.S. perspective, then you should be good. So, hey, arms deal away, just sell them to the right guys, I guess.
Paradox here. Why is a man who says he's basically just an innocent pilot and a businessman shipping foodstuffs or other materials around the world, why is he of such extraordinary value to Moscow? A man that they spent thousands of us seemingly assisting his defense here and there, trying to get him back over the past decades. And now at a time of the worst relations between Moscow and Washington, possibly since the Cuban Missile Crisis, you might argue, this remarkable deal where a high-profile American held by Russia is switched for a possibly higher profile in the mind of Russians, in American custody. That's quite extraordinary.
So you heard what he said. Why did Russia want him back so bad if he was just a nobody and he was no utility to America anymore, and he didn't have secrets and he didn't hold information that, you know, could be critical to our national security? Why would Russia want him back so badly? Because they're trying to downplay this as if this was like a good equal exchange and trade, and we all can see through the bullshit and know that it's not.
The broader theory about who Victor Bout really was in the past is perhaps he was a man close to Russian intelligence. Again, he denies it. Perhaps he knew people who went on to be senior in Vladimir Putin's circle. He may have had information on them. That was another theory, again, that he denied. And so a man clearly of massive value to the Kremlin. They're obviously glad to have him home, but one whose real past has never been truly elucidated.
So there you have it. We got one more video from CNN. This one's going to be facilitated by Don Lemon or Don Lemon. Let's get it.
Breaking news right now. We're getting news that Brittney Griner is free. The WNBA star, who has been detained in Russia since February, has been released in a prisoner swap with arms dealer Victor Bout. She is now in U.S. custody. Our team of reporters and analysts standing by. We're going to start now with Kylie Atwood at the State Department. Kylie, hello, welcome to you. What do we know at this point?
Yeah, well, we've just learned from a U.S. official, as you said, Brittney Griner, after about 10 months of being in Russian prison, is now free. She is in the custody of U.S. officials. We're expecting to hear from President Biden today, according to that U.S. official. And a source familiar tells us that this was a prisoner swap. It was for Brittney Griner for Victor Bout. And just to remind folks who Victor Bout is, he is an infamous arms trafficker. He is serving a 25-year prison sentence here in the United States. And he is someone that the Russians have been wanting for a while. Now, of course, Griner is a very famous basketball star, and there's been an immense amount of public pressure on the Biden administration to secure her release. But guys, notably this morning, we're not hearing that there is any news on Paul Whelan. And Paul Whelan is another American who has been wrongfully detained in Russia since 2018, going on 4 years in Russian prison. And so that is notable because U.S. officials have been saying for quite some time now that they were pushing for both Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan to be released. So, of course, today will be an incredibly joyful family for Brittney Griner's family, but we can expect it will be an incredibly emotional day for Paul Whelan's family. And of course, we're waiting to hear more as to how this all came to fruition, because you'll remember that earlier this summer, we reported that the Biden administration had put an offer on the table with the Russians to try and get out Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan. And Victor Bout, that convicted arms trafficker, was part of that.
Brittney Griner probably smoking a fat blunt right now.
That proposed deal. So now we're seeing part of that deal come to fruition, but of course not in its entirety.
And Tony
Well,
Blinken
and
is
Kylie-
speaking about that this weekend, too, about this possible deal for the prisoner swap.
And Kylie, my question on this is, obviously this is big reporting that we had over the summer about this offer that the Biden administration made for this convicted arms dealer, Victor Bout. They thought that was a big deal to offer this up. They thought the Russians were going to jump on that proposal when they said that they would conduct that prisoner swap. The Russians did not, and it caused serious frustration inside the White House. That bled out publicly. They made that very clear that they were frustrated with the fact that the Russians had not taken them up on that offer. The question around this, we do have big questions about Paul Whelan, and his family will as well. But what changed in this? Is there any sense of why the Russians have now taken the United States up on this offer to get Brittney Griner and bring her home?
Well, listen, we don't know the specifics, but you're exactly right, Caitlin. There was an incredible amount of frustration from U.S. officials because they felt like they were offering Russia something that Russia really wanted. Victor Bout's name has come up repeatedly when you have talked about potential prisoner swaps between the U.S. and Russia. But clearly, the Russians realized that there was an incredibly high price on Brittney Griner. We should note that, she is a famous basketball player, an American star. She really galvanized the LGBTQ community, the African-American community, to pressure the Biden administration to get her out. And rest assured that Russia was watching as that happened, of course.
Man, they just be using us like pawns every single time. We fall for it every single time.
Of course, Paul Whelan was part of those conversations, but she galvanized the public in a different way than we have seen before when it comes to Americans who.
And Brittney, I mean, she ain't even that black. She high yellow, goddamn. And but the black community, like, bro, sheesh.
Are detained abroad.
We have David Sanger and Abby Phillip to join the conversation, but Kylie, before you go do more reporting on this, I do have a question because and Caitlin knows as well, when President Biden was asked not that long ago if there were any terms under which he would engage with Vladimir Putin directly, the only term was if it had to do with the release of Brittney Griner. Do we know anything about the president's involvement in this in any way? Because Secretary Blinken did say the president was briefed every step of the way this summer, remember, before they made this offer in June to Russia.
Yeah, that's right. So Putin didn't end up showing up at the G20, which was the place where we thought potentially Biden would see him if there was something to discuss on a prisoner swap. So that was sort of off the table. But when it comes to President Biden's role in all this, when we've talked to U.S. officials and tracked this back and forth, what they have repeatedly said is that they weren't telling the Russians anything was on the table without approval at the highest levels.
Yeah.
And so what that means, of course, is that President Biden knew everything in terms of what U.S. officials were offering to the Russians privately. The Russians, over the course of the last few months, have been incredibly hard interlocutors because they have been coming back to the U.S. with proposals that U.S. officials said they simply couldn't deliver on. Well, clearly they felt like they could deliver on this deal here.
So there you have it. I do have another couple more clips here. We're going to get Plies, a rapper, his take on it. He had said previously that when Brittney Griner gets released, he wanted to fuck. So let's hear him out and see what he has to say after objectifying a LGBT queer black women on Instagram, and everybody thinks it's funny.
So if this one gonna tell me that Biden, Jeffrey, Brittney Griner, bitch, got in the air right now, bitch, out for one, bitch. Biden got Brittney in the air right now, bitch, on the way. Biden got her ass on that right now, eat bitch.
So I'm gonna keep it a buck. She's not on Air Force One because President Biden isn't on the plane. So if Biden's not on the plane is not Air Force One. Any plane that Biden travels on is Air Force One, not a plane that he sends for Brittney Griner on. Okay, so it's not Air Force One if he's not on the plane. Doesn't matter if it's the plane that he rode yesterday. If he sent for her a plane and he's not on it, it's not Air Force One. But obviously the nigga is talking retarded, like he's brain dead. But, you know, this is a character for Plies. Like, he doesn't actually talk like this, but he does it to relate and connect with the black community, which is kind of insulting if you really think about it. But anyways, let's watch.
Brittney in the air right now, be on the way. Bye got her ass on that right now, eat bitch. Bye got her ass on that right now, eat bitch. Yo, dude. Hey, listen. But when Mr. Sidekill right here free in the bit, what y'all saying? Oh, he a real one. Why? He a real one. I don't. Big bang, bitch. Right now, this BG, bitch. Hey, bang. Listen, you done free Brittney Griner, bitch, aka BG. I don't know. Now you might as well go on free the other BG, bitch. Baby gangster, bitch.
Who?
Bitch, you ain't even got the flat baby gangster on motherfucking Alpha One, bitch. Bitch, go get him, bitch. And a bitch Chevy, bitch. Yo, hey, and I already know BG get home. I know BG finna paint, bitch. BG finna paint or something, bitch. As she should. I don't. Yo, hey, I told the bitch just now. If I see Biden right now, you know what I'm saying? Right now, I already changed it. Now I already got him a new nickname, bitch. Big State Biden, bitch. Big State Biden, bitch. I see it right now. What's up, bitch? Big State Biden, bitch. What's up?
Big Steak Biden. I'm telling you guys right now, Biden's gonna win. If he runs again, if they run him again, he'll win. Because of niggas like this.
Yo, let me go get me a little workout in and shit, yo. I already know, bitch. They got me high, bitch. Brittney Griner, bitch. Yo, bitch. Biden got her ass right now, bitch. In the air, bitch. Eating big stuff.
I don't know why his video muted. I don't know. He might be getting a call while he was filming it. And here's another video. He is addressing the criticism that Biden freed Brittney Griner instead of Paul.
Hey, I'm gonna go and say this, and I'm gonna just keep it pushing. But you know, I just talked to my cousin about the whole little Brittney Griner thing, and you know the first thing he motherfucking said to me, "Damn, bro, that fucked up. They love Paul." I said, what? that fucked up. They love Paul, bro. They ain't have to leave Paul behind like that. I said, bitch, do you know Paul? Bitch, do you know Paul?
Do you know Brittney Griner? Oh, bitch, do you know Paul? Do you know Brittney Griner? I mean, you're acting like Paul hasn't done more for this country than Brittney Griner. I know they kept referring to him as an American businessman, but no, he's a former Marine. He laid his life on the line. He went through the training. So you don't know Brittney Griner personally. You probably never even been to one of her games, but you over here talking about, do you know Paul? Who gives a shit? Most of these people talking about Brittney Griner don't know a damn thing about Brittney Griner, didn't know who the fuck she was before she got arrested.
Bitch, you talking like you know Paul. Damn, bro, that fucked up. They ain't have to leave Paul behind. And I don't want nobody to be goddamn left behind. But just like I told him, why the fuck you can't be happy for Brittney now? And we can be motherfucking happy when Paul get out. We can be motherfucking happy twice. You scared to be motherfucking happy twice?
Nobody's scared to be happy for Brittney Griner, as we've said on this channel. Yeah, we're happy that she's home. But at the same time, we also stated that, you know, Paul should have been the priority. That's all people were saying. And this is a bad deal. It's a bad deal, man. That's really what it is. It would be different if we traded if we traded somebody who was less of a threat to our national security. Like, instead of trading the Merchant of Death for Brittney Griner, then we should have traded like the Merchant of Teletubbies for Brittney Griner, or something that's less menacing than the Merchant of Death, because that's not an equal trade at all. I mean, the Merchant of Death, what he's going to do, he's going to get out of prison, get acclimated, you know, probably take a couple days to adjust back to his freedom, and then he's going to take more contracts. He's going to get back involved in the game, and now he's even more untouchable. At this point, it's like he damn near got diplomatic immunity. So he's just about to pick up where he left off. And now the wars are, and now the weapons are even more advanced than they were in the 90s. I mean, he's finna start touching all types of different technology. I mean, I guarantee he could probably, within the next couple years, he could probably get his hands on 100 million worth of arms within the next couple years for sure.
Now all of a sudden it's about motherfucking Paul. I just fucked up, bro. They love Paul behind. Like you motherfucking know Paul. You ain't saw Paul now, motherfucking letter. No motherfucking canteen or nothing. But now all of a sudden you team motherfucking Paul just so you can motherfucking low-key hate on motherfucking somebody else. Motherfucking left Paul behind. All the motherfucking children get left behind in the motherfucking inner city. Left behind in education.
Yeah, they're getting left behind by their mothers, by their parents, by their deadbeat daddy or they mama who, is spreading her legs to the whole town, letting Pookie, Ray, and Tyrone smash. So these kids aren't getting left behind by anyone but their parents. Let's make that clear. Very clear.
All this, you don't motherfucking care about them getting left behind, but now all of a sudden, so you can motherfucking low-key hate on motherfucking Brittney. It's, they ain't have, bro, they ain't have to leave Paul behind like that. You want motherfucking Paul to come home? You know what you can motherfucking do? Go run for motherfucking president. You'll bring motherfucking Paul home. You bring whoever you want to. Motherfucker.
So that's the extreme. If you don't agree with the trade, go run for president and then you bring him home. And I find Plies amusing sometimes, but I mean, the nigga just sound retarded.
They're always trying to tell somebody else how to do their motherfucking job, but don't want nobody to tell them how to do their motherfucking job. Motherfucking Paul, they left Paul behind. Now all of a sudden you motherfucking team like motherfucking Paul. I want motherfucking Paul to come home just like I want.
Well, you don't know Brittney Griner. Like I said, you've never watched a game. You probably didn't even watch her when she was at Baylor.
I want a motherfucking Brittney to come home. Why you can't motherfucking be happy twice? Be happy for motherfucking Brittney now, and we can be motherfucking happy when Paul motherfucking get out. Try to act like you team motherfucking Paul just a motherfucking low-key hate on Brittney. I don't want to hear that shit.
I mean, if if after every word you got to be like motherfucking, that just shows you really don't have much to say. Off the motherfucking power and the motherfucking this and the motherfucking that. Like, damn. My nigga didn't say nothing but motherfucking like 115 times. But anyways, guys, that is pretty much it. I think we've covered this topic extensively. What I will do, though, is I will ask a final question in the poll in the stream. So just be looking out for that. The question is going to be, do you agree with the trade for Brittney Griner's release? And that's going to be the question. You got yes or no. Simple. So I'm asking the chat right now. Do you agree? Go into Black Gen Z Mindset and vote on the poll, guys. Go to Black Gen Z Mindset and vote on the poll. In the meantime, guys, support the channel. We've got my backup, which is BGZM News 17. This is my backup channel. I'm posting all my backlogs to BGZM News 17. So make sure you go and support and subscribe there. Let's see. We got the Black Gen Z Mindset main channel. We've got Instagram. We've got TikTok. We've got the Facebook pages. We've got Twitter. Let's see. We got Twitch. We got Odysse. We got Rumble. Okay. We've got Patreon, BitChute. We've got the Discord. Guys, join the Discord to send me stories. Please stop blowing up my email. Just join the Discord, please. And I'll check those stories out. We got the PayPal, the Cash App, as you can see, the merch store. Now, the merch store, guys, we haven't really sold that much much merch, right? Yeah, we haven't sold that much merch. I think we've sold like 3 items or something like that. So we gotta definitely, I mean, we got hats. You can get the BGZM News 17 dad hat. You can get this little stuffed animal. You can get the slides, whatever you want. The neck gaiter to stay warm. So make sure you go and support the merch. Buy the merch. I definitely want to see people rocking that merch. And once you cop it, you know, send me a picture. That's something that you can email me. But other than that, we're pretty much good on this subject. Guys, let me know what you think. Vote on the poll, please. So far, we got 100% of people saying that they don't agree with the release. Also, like the video, share the video, comment on the video immediately after the stream. Guys, I am going to head out, and we're going to send it to Jinquavius to take us away. Guys, I appreciate it. You already know what it is. It's your boy, Black Gen Z Mindset, a.k.a. BGZM News 17, a.k.a. Jinquavius Jackson. Peace.
Yo, what's good, BGZM News 17 family? I'm at the corner of Jesse Jackson and Marcus Garvey, and I got some bad news for you. As you can see, I lost my job. I'm out here living in cardboard boxes outside of boarded up vacant homes. YouTube said I'm done getting money out here in these streets. They even took my funky ass suit. So anything right now would help. So go ahead and hit that Cash App, hit that PayPal, hit that GoFundMe. Hell, cop the merch. Or if you want to make the long-term commitment to the Jinquavius Jackson Fund, join the Patreon so that I can continue to put out top-notch content each and every day. Also, check out the Rumble, where there is absolutely no censorship. Link in the description box below.
Hey, yo, ain't that nigga Jinquavius? Yo, I recognize.
No, that's not me no more.
Hey, yo, run your pocket.
Y'all tell me what they say.
Do the opposite of Antonio Brown and take over
What
your
more
show.
do you want from me?
Oh, look at Daddy.
He's not my dad.
Really, Ava?
He's not. My dad's in jail and they miss him.
Gang violence and other kind of violence. So it is what it is.